It was early December, and I'd been acting for maybe about 11 years to that point professionally, and you have your ups and downs. And at that time, there really wasn't much work for me. I wasn't making a lot of money, but it's not like I'm the sort of person that just sits and waits for the phone. I've never been like that. I had a routine going. I would get up, start writing immediately, and then I'd go swim a kilometer every day, walk home, and then I'd play the saxophone for hours. Me and Miles Davis just jamming. And that made me feel good. And being December, there's the annual agency Christmas party, and I'd only been with this agent for maybe a year. And of course I'm going to go. That's a chance for casting directors to remember your face, and also there's free food and alcohol. So yeah, of course I'm going to go, and my friend wanted to go as well, so we went together, and I went to her place, picked her up in a cab, and she was all dolled up in a nice fluffy white thing, and we got to the party, and it's at the Manulife Center, and it's this beautiful, beautiful room with windows all around. You can see the city and the glitter. Everybody was dolled up, and there was this gorgeous gold frame mirror. It's quite ornate, and I just caught my attention immediately. And it just caught my eye immediately. I thought, that mirror would look good in my place. And then my friend said, "Oh, free martinis," and I'd never had a martini before, but why not? So she comes back with martinis, and they're so clear, they're so clean. I think that's why they're so evil, because they're so clean. They're so deceiving. So I take a sip and I suck it back. It was wonderful. You want to just suck it back, but you shouldn't. You should just sip it. But I sucked it back. And I sucked back quite a few. According to my friend, it was at least 7. I don't know. I didn't count. I was having the time of my life. I can't remember much. I can't remember much at all. Just flashes, like a slideshow of events, casting directors' faces, dancing up a storm, kind of like Martha Graham / belly dancing. And I was in the center, and I was twirling around like a whirling dervish. It was felt good. And I remember my agent coming up to me and yelling, "Valerie, do you have a boyfriend?" And there was this guy standing beside her, and I just looked and he said, "Yeah." And I just continued to dance. And then that mirror that I wanted, was just haunting me throughout the night. Oh, I should point out to you that usually when I drink, I'll peak and then I'll just drop. I'll find a corner and fall asleep. And somehow someone carries me home. But there I was just still dancing, and I was up. And somehow we got our coats, and somehow I was able to strip that mirror off the wall. Now this was a big mirror, like about so big and heavy, and I think the swimming helped. And we go through the front doors, and the security guard is looking at me, and I say, "It's the door prize." And we got outside. And it was cold. It was really, really, really cold. And I had this thin silk thing on and a very light jacket, because I figured cab to cab to cab. And, little shoes, the whole bit. Somehow we get a cab and we get to my friend's house. And the car stops. The door swings open and she just rolls out of the cab. And her white poofy shirt just went poof, 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 poof. And she's laughing or maybe crying, and there's blood. Her hands are bleeding on the ice and on her shirt and on her hands, and there was blood. And I just sat there. And I watched her go. And she crawled. She was literally crawling up the steps towards her front door, and she was yelled out, "Key," and she couldn't find her key, or that's what I got out of it. And she buzzed for her neighbor, and her neighbor came out with a bathrobe and let her in. Apparently what happened is that her husband found her at the bottom of the stairs with her pants around her ankles. But she was choking on her vomit, and her husband had to get his hands in there and dislodge this vomit. And he called my place, wanting to know. He was scared. Obviously, he was scared and worried, and wanting to know what sort of drugs I gave her. Like, I mean, I don't do drugs. I barely do martinis. But so, meanwhile, in the cab, I'm sitting back there with the mirror, and I vomit. I vomit all over the back seat, and oh man, I felt bad. The poor cab driver is so very disappointed, and I'm very disappointed. The cab driver was very disappointed, and so I just gave him every bit of money that I had, and I took the mirror, got out, and I said, I'll walk. And you know, it's about, I don't know, maybe like 4-kilometer walk from my friend's house to my house, and it was cold. It was very, very cold, and there was ice, and I had these little shoes on, and this silky thing, and this light jacket, and my hair, and the mascara, and I guess puke all over my face as I'm waddling down the street. My toes are aching, and all I really want to do is just crawl under a tree and sleep. But this mirror, I had to get this mirror home, and I feel as though that mirror just propelled me forward. I don't remember much. It's like shadows of trees and people, but they didn't really look like people to me. They looked like giant cone heads coming towards me, and I'm walking through. So I just kept going. Somehow I got home. I wake up to the telephone ringing, and the answering machine kicks in, and my agent's voice. Valerie, don't worry. You had a great time. You probably had the best time out of everybody. You were dancing up a storm. Now, please don't worry, but somebody saw you leave with a mirror. They said the girl with the hair left with the mirror. And we'd really like that mirror back because it costs a couple of $1,000, and I really don't want to have to pay for it. And I just bolt up out of bed. And it's one of those futon things you put on the floor. And at the end of the bed is the mirror, and I see my reflection, this pukey, crusty face. Oh my God. My friend and her husband decides to drive me. We're both puking all the way through this, if you can imagine. And her husband decides to drive me to the Manulife Center where the party was to return the mirror. And he says, Valerie, you are so green. And he's a DOP, so he knows green. We get to the place, and the manager's there, and I tell him, oh, I'm so sorry, but I was at a party last night, and I accidentally took this mirror. And as I'm handing it over, I see dry puke on the back of the mirror. And I give him a big smile, and he's smiling, and I say, I like that one. And it's a much bigger mirror. And he laughed, and we all laughed, and I really think that mirror saved my life. I haven't had a martini since. Okay, I had one 2 weeks ago. But I still think they're evil. I'm just glad I didn't puke on a casting director. Okay, maybe a few of them.